So, what about the situation where an animal needs an antibiotic or has been sent home on empirical dosing of a drug? They're dispensed, let's say, 2 weeks of medication, and all of a sudden the pet doesn't tolerate the drug, or a veterinarian gets a culture back and it mandates a change in the prescription. So now this owner has a vial of antibiotics in the house. What's the proper way to dispose of that?
Yeah, really, really good question. That is important because, this gets to what the effects are in the environment. And when we're talking about One Health, I think we've talked about, antimicrobial resistance between people and animals, but what about the environment? And that's the other big piece of this. So the recommendation would be to bring the antibiotics to a location that has a drug take back program. These have been set up across the country primarily to deal with the opioid crisis, but they will accept any drug, including antimicrobials. And so there's a national effort that's called the Drug Take Back Day, I believe. And there's information on the CDC website about it, but those occur October and April every year. So you could save those antimicrobials and look out for information about drug take back days twice a year. There are places that will take drugs back any time of the year. And, that's going to be location dependent. So depending where you live, if those are available. I know in the state of Minnesota, where I live, there's great information on the Minnesota government website or the Department of Health website. And I can put in my zip code and find out, where are the places I could take drugs. And so around me, I know I can take them to like police or sheriff stations, local pharmacies. Like I know our local Walgreens pharmacies will have drug take back. Some hospitals and clinics will. So you might be able to look at your state health department website to find that information. And that would be the ideal situation, because if we put them in the trash or we flush them down the toilet, they're going to end up in our groundwater and our wastewater. And wastewater treatment plants most of them are not designed to actually remove antimicrobials. And so that does become an issue. Not all antimicrobials break down in the environment. Some that do are still active. And so, there is quite a bit of literature now looking at antimicrobial resistant organisms in wildlife, and that partly is contributing to it. There's some stuff that is unavoidable. We metabolize those antimicrobials. They might still be active when we pass them, and then they get into our wastewater. But we can do our part and not throw those drugs in the trash or flush them down the toilet and find a drug take back site.
Yeah, and I guess that's another point of communication for veterinary teams to owners, right?
Yeah, absolutely.